Just to kind of go through where these three poets are coming from briefly, Rachel B. Glazier is the author of the story collection Pea on Water, two books of poems, Moods and Hairdo, and the novel Paulina and Fran. She received her MFA from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and she currently lives in Northampton, Massachusetts. Heather Tone's first book, Likenesses, won the Honickman First Book Prize. Her work has appeared in Boston Review, Colorado Review, and Fence. She received her MFA from the University of Iowa. She teaches high school in Austin, Texas. And Lo Paulman's first book, Yearling, won the Kundeman Prize and was published by Alice James Books in 2015. Her second book, The Bees Make Money in Lion, appeared in 2016. She received her MFA from Ohio State University, and she currently lives and works in Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you very much. We're going to start off with Rachel, and then go to Lo, and then Heather. Thanks.
Cool, it's really fun to be here. With no desire to call anyone, I reach for my phone. Somewhat moved in the temple during my public speaking class, after the fireworks, I reach for my phone. Truly interesting, I say to your story at lunch, but I'm feeling for my phone's smooth screen in each of my 4 pockets. I pick up a jacket and can tell from the weight. In fabric, it makes a boxy shape. It isn't fancy. It's like a dumb boyfriend, a short diary, a live battery. It gives me a little batch of pleasure, calls out like a pet in a hiding spot. It vibrates my hand at the lecture, sits nicely at dinner. I put the phone on silent so no one will wake me, then stare at the screen, waiting for someone to call. When I put it to my face ends calls. My face links calls. The cover-up for my face rubs onto my screen like it's wearing cover-up on its face, like a silly lover, a dirty mirror. I am closer with the phone than the people in the phone. What disappointment when it slips underneath the driver's seat. I feel something for the raised name of my credit card, the authority of keys, but nothing like with the phone. Each time I drop it, it dimples like a rock. There is an electrical bond between us. It must be coated in germs. A sad bolt of freedom when I power it down, on the plane when they force me. Under the soft foam of the moon. In my locked car, on my dead phone, I noodle for the stranger. Inside the house, my family sleeps. Everyone I love is asleep. But I'm looking at the thin hands of the bushes, noodling along, feeling moony, just barely charming a stranger, distracting him from the old cure of sleep, feeling Shakespearean because the sky looks painted and my voice is delivering. I'm carving a hideout in the stranger, homing up to him, walking the dark path between us, seeing my face in things that don't have my face. I can feel the sleep of my aging neighbors, the luxurious seclusion. The sky isn't black or gray, it's that good fur, that far fabric of soft light, and my voice rings its reoccurring realizations with dawdling human flair, a pretend music to touch the stranger. Strangers are half symbol, half animal, and this one breaks in air as I enter the night breathing with the assured heart of a trespasser, filled with the lonely lives of dogs, curdled excess charm, and a childless levity. I walk like an ancient camera is tracking me, is still interested when I bore myself, a night camera set to record the moon. Deodorants grow bored of their smell. They breathe it in and can't think of anything else. An unscented one takes on a metallic scent. They overwhelm themselves and want to run out, but last forever and slowly lose their minds. Teenage girls hot for the Eiffel Tower. Teenage girls hot for the Eiffel Tower frame old French illustrations of cats, endure the death smell of nail polish, and create a self-religion in the shower. They only excel at field hockey if they pretend they are fighting for France. Their postcard idea of France, their ruffled dream of sex. These girls use the little lock on their doors, though their parents never bother them, though no boys ever call on the phone. They want to have the longest hair of anyone at school, but Therese will always have the longest hair. They have this idea of what whiskey will taste like, but the taste is really more like pralines. They want a boy to watch them cry. They want a hand mirror to examine their sex parts. They want a man to cross the coffee shop where they sit and ask them what they're writing. Guys wearing suits in action movies, the enemy's friends. They laugh and look menacing. They trot around pools. Sometimes they're eating sandwiches when they're shot. The enemy was mean to his friends and it made them mean. He was gruff and it made them gruff. Sometimes when they are eating sandwiches, the enemy scolds them. They need to protect the enemy, or the mansion, or go get the money. The guys have guns, black or silver. They bleed in their suits. They live to die. Decorative plates are shot off the mantle as the enemy flees the dining room, slipping on Spanish tiles. His dogs bark enthusiastically. A bullet nails him to the wall. He makes one last joke and dies resenting his friends. They weren't his real friends. They were only drawn to his power. Sometimes they didn't leave the bathroom as clean as they found it. They never did normal guy things. They were always wearing suits. Respect. I respected my brother when, growing up, he ordered oil and vinegar for his salad, and they brought him a metal contraption that held 2 beakers for Einstein, like the scales of justice, yellow oil and an insane purple. While I was a tremendous teenager, you were still reading the unauthorized biography of Bowser. You were holding a pube to the light. You were pressing your silly putty back in its egg. I was already part of an art movement when you were asking when your birthday was. You were attempting to sing a jingle. You were tasting your bath water. I had the gall to put all my money on black while you were talking softly to your toys and asking the World Book about sex. I was gunning down the highway while they shot my documentary, and you were forking peas all afternoon, mulling over a bubble in your wallpaper, nervously saving your allowance, playing rock, paper, scissors by yourself. I couldn't be bothered to read my fan mail. You were choosing a middle name for your rabbit. You were digesting yesterday's strudel, pretending Tic Tacs were illegal, putting your ear to a puddle. That's why it's hard for me to relate to you now, because I have a nightclub named after me, and you are still looking for your Lego's head. The World of Manet. Can't find the draft of my new poem, The World of Manet, that I wrote on the Metro North last month. after finding and taking art books from a box on the street in Hastings on Hudson, where I adventurously left my car. A couple weird hours with those books, dragging my own little art history with me, feeling super dignified on the train, gazing at forgotten works of genius while a man yapped on his phone. Sitting on them on the sidewalk outside Kathleen's office so as not to dirty my dress. I left the books in Brooklyn. There was one about Titian too, and another I can't remember, never getting to cull them for phrases like I'd like to. Plus can't find the draft, which I scrawled on the back of a poem I was going to read and then did read at Burroughs. But I know the poem will be good because the title of the book, The World of Manet, is so dramatic and fun to use in a line like, I left the world of Manet in Brooklyn, like I was carrying it around. But I need to cull the phrases that made Manet seem like such an amusing badass, a victim of Parisian gossip, and made the old world seem funny and amazing, the details I can't fake now. Plus the stuff I wrote on the train about wanting 2 statues on either side of my front door of men covering their crotches, like I saw in the book. I just walked back into the dark hotel room where John is sleeping, and he asked, "Who is it?" as he often asks while he's asleep. I'm so far from the world of Manet, but the idea swells in my mind, and I've brought you all the way here, a bit early to the party, so feel the need to spill my guts, to keep you here longer, because John's asleep and my world is dim. I haven't seen a good painting in a while or made a good painting in longer. If you have the desire to paint, you must paint today, and don't show anyone. Be Manet alone, wear a fucking robe, feel those ancient drugs, see the curtain and die a little. Manet was so dashing. Painters were so serious, but no one is serious and dashing now. I'm just going to read a few more from Moods. Donna and her sister. Donna and her sister were ruining his life. Hi, Sal. Hey, Sal said quietly. He left them alone at the plant store. Sal was 29. When he felt tired, he took himself back to his apartment. Love, Donna's sister cried as Sal took off in his car. The whole town was Donna's and sisters. In the library, one said, I'll control you. They were in Whole Foods parking lot when he felt himself grow calm. It rained lightly, and Sal thought they were crying. They made pancakes and ate them, but Sal couldn't taste them. You switched from human to boring, Donna said. Her sister nodded robotically. Sal felt frozen. The sex had been diagnostic. I'm not what you need, I think, Sal said slowly to help them. Heroes are so long. Any fault of theirs is good. A one wrapped in fives. A surgery for fun. The pass downs stay up, a nose, dishes, other things lay down. One time I lost a mortal god, a dog's soul, the fate smell. I knew all haunting was privilege, that a wish can be 3D. There'd been grace around, and it fell all over. A dick is a thick way to say it. A telephone is a place to reform it. A mother reiterates, we recite, sing. Believe ghosts, suppose all kinds of mirrors. Heroes are gilded and golden so long. They didn't do anything wrong. I like what they did wrong. Tropical islands. A woman in the bathtub sees her nipples and the land around them as two tropical islands, places too exotic to visit on her salary. I'm going to end it there. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks to every single one of you for being here. It's really lovely to be here with you, so thanks. I'm going to read poems from my first book and then some from the second, and I'll circle back around eventually. Ariel. Temper, temper, more of it, leather lashed to its own prow, riding low. When battle ready, sober, I was gorgeous in anger, drop dead. The hours swelled, glassy, splitting like a lip, then it was done. One devastation lent a hand to the other. I dreamt like a war machine and woke like a child. This is a poem that has my grandfather in it, my dad's father, and I think the only thing that might be helpful to know is that in Singapore, cars drive on the left side of the road, not the right, and also that he used to be a bird poacher and would hide poached birds in the back of his taxi. I think it'll help. Taxi, Singapore, Ohio. Wife beatered, bedroom burst with birds and suns. My grandfather turns left on red forever. We leave mainland for traffic or fish, an island for snow, the hereditary list to away for his ghost taxi I never heard, a quartet of poached songbird in the trunk. In my mirror, I see the men I got drunk off just breathing them, and tonight I wish I took the well-trafficked kiss to market, watched it sun and sell and darken beside a silver moon of palm fret, thanked for flesh, for time. The fishmonger of me walks home with a little fish, a little empty, but the next life will be landlocked, so we get into a taxi and take somebody home before that life surfaces. Some snow, all stone animals you cannot shoot, agreeable species floated at the corners of yards. We'll ghost into a life like minor chords, make rear-view eyes at what could have flown. As a taxi turns left on red, 4 songs shut in the trunk, testing the border like a cut so open we'll know it forever. The words that could have taken us home, nowhere, then brilliant, gone, fish sailing through the air. I have a series of poems written around a character named Pinocchio, whose story borrows loosely from the traditional Italian folktale of Pinocchio, except Pinocchio is a girl, and some other differences in here. But this poem is written in the voice of the people who made her and sent her out into the world. Pinocchio, we loved you enough to dream up a simple boat that could, with confidence, slice through a continent's wet shelf for new gold and other precious curios, and then we put you in it, dear thing. But not before a real hand came down to carve the map of worldly want into your brow, so you may but look overboard, once lost, to know your place. We will imagine you, unsinkable girl, stirring the seas from east to west, and the sea sniffing at the cherry notes of your bones, of the fresh wound of your head, a daydream of something like blood as you row and row for days. Pinocchio, you have been loved. Hard, unsaying, hips and tongue, you are indelible, we love you that much. We dreamed the sharks all of a face and mechanical thrust, dreamed the dream of you, half in, half out of his throat. So the hand came down kind and sanded your breasts away for speed. For seconds you, half in, half out of a devil, must cast yourself away. Pinocchio, we could not bear to see you, destructed even in our sleep. Pinocchio, you will never die. We bless you, living ghost of treasure, imagined back into coffers wide enough for you to sleep in, the half-sweet smell of you radiating from the walls. There you will intuit all things done for a reason, so you will do great things, we know. As the hand comes down into your legs, making of two things one, brief tableaus of hind light, spine, and blue, green, blue run through the mind of the hand as he gives you the body that can outrun the tides. And so we deliver you into the oceanic womb, half girl, new beast, and you will go forth, reborn in the image of how we loved you, like a bride, Pinocchio, like 1,000 golden fish in the sea, alive in the mouth of the coffer, the realest thing for days. Ephemera. This was the room that held me like a grave. That was the bad dream taking off its boots and button words. So long, coyote-dotted June, and Zodiac Cave, where I fractured and wheeled. The carrion flies fall away, unsung. I hope their children wander more freely than we have, though not necessarily into our bodies. Body, gabion, lit cage of copper skin and threaded blood, you'll know one more death as you knew you would. I'll puncture through the hook in you, though barely. This time a hair will flood out from the fox warren of me, though its knees knock and the stars slouch like fat coins in the mud. It will burn softly, proudly, for leaving no sign of passage. This floods like a sail-shaped ear. Watch me press it to the wall. And this poem, I think the only thing that this might be helpful is referencing the now outdated idea of left-handedness being sort of like sinister or wrong. Not so outdated, actually. The body that has something to say. For centuries, reports that left-handedness is all wrong. Doctors with their skull auger and bowl, and mother tongues everywhere, have things to say about the instinctual dominance that splits a body in half. Which side of a girl reigns the darker? The bolder? The I will never kneel before your fire. And oh, what mulish fire. If you touch a stem of rosemary to its little blue core, the truth snakes itself out in a thin-lipped guffaw of smoke. Namely, the habit of sucking limes, spare use of sesame oil, how the father-in-law did or did not mean it when he called his son's wife Crooked Path. But over all confessions, this subversion, a salted trick that's had leaders of men seeing the body in fractions like land. It was never a question of one side over the other. The body that has something to say knows better than that, lights everything on fire with one hand and tends coals with the other. Cannon with wolves in the water. The world may end in fire. My Holocene repeats. My love of horrid thaw recycles back the year. I repeat only myself, mad as infant ferns, or fracture in a face of tidal ice. Wolves fall from the middle of the era like water off a wave of ice. I, lupine dam of lowest loss, crouch to eye its low waves for years to come. Came hell or high, came kin hard swept to sea by a year of rain. Come withhold what was left inside me. You, fang, half sank like news of good or evil in the skin of the thinning feral year, or your dream of dying repeated. You or I descend from the first bayou of good or worse, unclearing the water under sky. I was and was a pelt on fire, and under it, everything we had been had. The world may end in fire, or how I watch the water is wolves treading water for life. How a wolf watching water is how I want to love the new apocalypse for good. So some of the poems that I wrote in this book were inspired by thinking about my citizenship process, and before that, my alien registration process and identity. So I also borrowed a lot of ideas and language from the Mars One press releases, and if anyone is not familiar with the Mars One, it's an endeavor to get a human colony on Mars within the next 10, 20 years, something like that. So I was thinking a lot about movement registrations and names. This is Abad for non-citizens. Alien status, a blue bourgeois dress, the hustle of Rome, a waltz, zoom out, the citizen ingenue's cool crinoline and persona, buckling her silhouette into the ahistorical hourglass. I have no story, your shout into this century's solar wind, a yellow ribbon on a bomb compromised by compromise, a citizen's birthright, a little box Xeroxed white, the alien body folded like a French flap in the epic determination to predetermine the alien body in the here/now. War is a feed. To be angry is to be fed up. Citizens eat blood. Education aside. I should explore, not go off. The future, the TV, vectoring the colonist's self-portrait. Thumbs up for this handmade family. Zoom in. Citizen 2 karaoke's in low gravity. Zooby zoo. Unlikable kiss shot back to Earth. The camera winking. Stiff graphs in the ship's greenhouse, not trembling at the speed of light. Turmeric tumescing quietly, and the brilliant soldier of a pear sapling. Here on Earth, the rapist pledges. Fear femmes my waist. It wastes sure as the sun is wasting. Zoom out. The atomic story is smooth in places, if no one is protagonist, but particle in motion, or minor residue of emotion's creation myth. I don't know why I love us, I just do. Zoom in. Citizen 4 weeps, eats a webcam, FU's HQ, quarantines herself to the brink with paper porn. Citizen 1 goes by PJ. Kick, my grief is underfoot. Empty bucket and an enemy on top. Promised a drink of water for love, the landing we couldn't stick. Last Zoom, every alien has a face. My face, a flip book, a free pass to outre worlds. Reassignment of number, denial of trial. A glass wall. Might be colonists put the finger to the screen to zoom out or in. Napping on. Baby, wake up. The foreign body just fell in the dream. Pastoral for first-generation kids. Z particles make a hive of my distance. Buzz, buzz. Young aliens leave a mother's ship to translate the deadly xeriscape and live as citizens roll the ideal Rolodex, wander the earth. In the hands of extinction fall asleep and thaw. Vents in the universe vomit the years. In boycott versus maglev usage takes days to argue with my parents in lieu, terribly, of a common habitat. Space before us, space between. Its excess regrets me, identifiable object, and my face, a traitor, quizzed by her own questioning. Question, poems imply planning. Some children in the kingship obeyed when necessary. You thought you could undo national knots. When? Answer, alien maiden reporting for nothing, madman, ma'am, looking right through me. I do not call kept at arm's length the tax of sacrifice, clipping thick juvenilia off me, the offspring raised on wheat and OJ. I wither down to poem what I cannot plead, a bouquet of narcissi howling to be shaken at the sky. What hurts like a kilo of flesh grown quickly in winter, in the year of gravid splitting. First-generation kids in the filled sorrow field of electric pollen. A mother's yellow coat is a pheromone, dredging the world's diameter in data's cold call home, or hope, or a scent half as tragic. Bombastic as an egg in my mother in her mother's womb, am I awake? What time is it, Ma? It's me. bee-sting little brava. This is a poem in which I kind of braided together a couple of different things. A reimagined zodiac of totally made up names, and the idea of an interstellar alien romance, I suppose, if you can call it that. Abad was beginning, end, and zodiac. Zoophobia predicted my alien romance. In the year of the lamb, an earth boy spit out my tooth. It was red like a page of the sun, yellow as the word he held me down on. He called me a real bitch between the streets on fire, flour, and fur. There was no xenogenesis in the future, and no future in which the shtick colonized my cage away. In the year of novelty's meat, I didn't sleep, welded to my milestone in the ether. I was found by a man named PJ, dethroned and lived up until the exit interview. Question, verify your birthright, remove your latitude, prove your alibi extra tight like what you are. I could not say all animals looked familiar under his weight, and that was birthright. In the future, my flesh forgot the registry of movement and moved. In the future, machines turned over earth, broken by a year of wild horrors. The need to dig grew dead and worse, dull. I turned on the world and I got lit, slipping the white mask of an earth girl over my gold, freaking of hearts on, off, on. I was natural, like the flu, like a negligee of kudzu. Red cells glittered at the end of PJ's wound. In the year of the flea, I found the new interview. When he spit on my whip-about V, questioning itself, the light I tossed out was a worldly, bitter red, jealous of itself. To possess myself, I built a pyre to throw pioneers on. Born, bloom, bang. He put me in the epic, known for felonies feminine. He named me, and I threw the index out. I had one edge, a beginning to ringing in the year of the ebb, longing, bleeds, belonging. I rang you, bell, bell, bell. I saw that boy nesting in his paper uniform. His nation fit in a single stanza. My continent had a hole. I was bored in the year of the furious hurts. The alien crown. Trouble exists, so drag on. Put down the paper beast of epilogue, gone limp, good night. Flare to the legal system, good night. Under a narrative of stars, press at the world's first fence. It's a chain, a fable of fear in gold plating, manufacturing a life of feeling. No more copies of you. Voltas fail, but here we are, unhurt nowhere, editing violence until we dawn. The erotics of fear is a rich man's rev wrenching you from your color. No more buying anything in the end despair took from compulsion. If not devotion, not repression, it's honorary white law, xenocratic in fair weather. It's war, undoing the stars, and worse, it's magic, calling you citizen. Call it disaster, your application to the world's index, yearning, and peel off the bloom of disguise, like a woman from a tomb. Be wordless with me, not worldless, the anti-bomb when we choose to live, wildly zero when we touch the world. Call it home, a fable with no phobia at all, where no house can keep us, the dripping golden hand that flies to the door for birthright, this bliss against blitz. I have one more poem I'm going to read back from this book. Yearling and Armor. I am here at last, dressed in plain mustard and tiger, carrying on with my fake claw, and faulty calendar. The old fetishes, spit and spice and sea, loaded behind my teeth. Another year, another armor, though I was told otherwise. Another way of speaking. What if the body had been a spell and the confidant broke it? Or a city half woken and my comrade blazed it. Inside, a voice praised for the bantam mouthing off at the anti-dawn, to silence or become other entirely, firebird feeding off ash, or a photograph of somebody brave. What if my face had been a sign, so I painted it, time's direction rolling back and back like a maiden's domesticating spine, and what the body had in store for itself, potential seeds and starry cloves stacking the inner shelf, was pulled into the mouth of the ocean. So on, another city, new, almost. What if I knew I would pay all for entrance, to be entranced, or else to almost always be? And if I let hot ritual wrap its arms about me, then another, and felt the body move again like a mouthful of sea or a yearling in the armory. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Kent for inviting, and to Rachel and Lo for reading with me. I'm never really sure how to read this book, because what it is a series of what I think of as poem cycles. So the poems in the poem cycles, there's like individual poems in the poem cycles that I hope make each other stronger if they're read together, but reading one of the cycles gets pretty long without any breaks. So I'm going to read some excerpts from one of the poems in the poem cycle, and then maybe some new work, and then return to the book. So this is from the cycle that, in this poem cycle, this is like my made-up word. This is from a poem cycle called Combinations, and the touchstone word in the cycle is marriage. And so I am thinking about a union between two people, but I'm thinking about that word marriage as being kind of like a union. Is this better? Sorry. Better? Okay. But also I'm thinking about other kinds of unions. So like maybe the union between a person and an idea that transforms the person, or the union between a person and a poem. So I hope that when you hear marriage here, you're also hearing unions beyond just marriage. The marriage of certain objects in the mouth means they appear next to one another on shelves in supermarkets. The marriage of certain objects in bones means you have to go to the hospital. The marriage of certain objects in bones means the bones bloom. Too much blooming kills the heart. The marriage of certain objects in the heart means you might be a good communicator. The marriage of certain objects in the mind means we can conceive of a God. Half of it is about the perfect dinner, and half is about death. My neighbor douses his grass with gasoline. Fire ants are killed. Fire ant bodies marry deep blue dirt. Voices of birds marry thick blue air. Stomachs of pastured animals marry the white want of winter. If beasts have something to put their bodies to, then so do we. Syria might be an option, or sorting out genius photography from dabbling in the digital age. In barns across the West, hay goes cold like analog. Lacking hay, barns just go cold. My spine has gone cold, married to the silver zipper. Mirrors marry the faces to the faces. I can't shake this sad lean-to. I can't shake the feeling that you're washing your hands somewhere. My spine marries someone's torso. My spine imprints on someone else's skin. My spine comes in contact with your torso, and my scoliosis makes an S. Several of the things we do under the auspices of the church. The body was married to the underside of a truck to grease, bolts, bottles of Michelob in the afternoon. She'd married herself to the porch where the sun struggled. Wheat struggled against the sun. Hedges struggled against the sun. The cat struggled to enroll itself, and yes, part of that was about sun. In the gallery, I was finally understanding the tour guide. Black with gold, he said, the struggle of empires. Red married to orange, the struggle of dominance. Gold married to silver, the struggle of a common currency. Does it sound better to say married to or married with? The gallery guide notes how lines in this or that painting lead the eye away. Those lines end somewhere in the real world, he suggests. This isn't about paintings anymore, is it? It's about Henry VIII's quiet moments when he let his mind wander off across the heaving kingdom. A hat keeps brightness off the face when daylight plunges itself down. You are not the first person to recognize the talismanic properties of a favorite hat. You are not the first person to visit Yellowstone National Park. You are not the first to be stilled by the mathematics of waves. You are not the first to note how real everything is. Jack pines marry the air. A thin-legged deer bends one knee. My friends and I gasp. Somewhere in this country is an older literary movement. A couple of cows gnaw the state line. An axe marries the white chest. Cutting down trees is something you read about rather than see. Marriage comes forward like a horse. Clouds roll in and out like Fords. I read about the difference between art and endorsement. I read about the difficulties of absolute power. I read Martin Buber and think how his picture is like a stone. Sometimes the things you read recede behind a face in front of your face. I'd marry that, you think, but not that. I'd live in there, you think, but not there. I'd live in there like an electrical impulse or a socket. I'd look around. At times, buildings are trees indistinguishable from one another because of what is behind them. And the last thing you say how light marries packing materials, how it marries a danger-scraped manhole. You say, this is somebody's art, not mine. I see the difference, and it's like for a while I do feel bad. This is called Palace. Maybe I might change the title. A man stands in an oval room, his hand raised and 3 fingers counting down 1 and 1 and 1. Palace, he says. Palace, the palace echoes. There are cameras. Everything anyone says after sounds like Skittles falling, the whole dish. In the palace, we are encouraged to stay awake. Palace, though, is a dream word, gauze-built, special effect, a lullaby. The queen, for example, she's nowhere to be seen. All my lovers, come back to the palace. This memo arrives from Palace. This monogrammed linen from a pocket which is thrown toward the crowd, this charity. Stone, iron, PVC, watery screens upon the windless walls. Little messengers carry messages through tunnels. The Place serves both literally and metaphorically. You can make another shift its flags. You can make a point. You can draw lines from point to make a cathedral. In the palace, supper is served late after several cocktails and a game of chance and missile. In the palace, every corner hides a nesting eagle. Palace, the eagles hiss. Clouds sift through their wings. Palace, she says into the phone, and she sounds like she wants me to pay for the dial. Palace sifts through my sleep life like Abercrombie and Fitch. Those decorated boys strapped to pink chairs and tilting their chins for a profile. My stars, it is the Sun King. He nods his great cotton head and nearly topples. He is my favorite king, the king of palaces. I, too, would like to be called something associated with a celestial body. My middle name is Madagascar, my daughter's Manchester by the Sea. In the pool is a blue palace swimmers break with their white elbows. I wanted to wear that one on my back like I was born a god, my palace a floating piece of light. I woke myself this morning and entered door number 1. Someone called it daylight, but I called it door number 1. One of several thresholds I had to cross, and with my eyes closed, I crossed it. This is one of the beautiful things about games in the palace. You must be half asleep to play them. As an example, palace me and you have won. My heart gets fat in the trees. My heart blows up the woods in the end. The woods at the edge of the palace grounds are brittle compared to the spells I speak from palace wall to end the palace walls. This is a movie about a palace. The palace is gray, no white, no the color of gelatin. The palace has pale steps from knees to throat. Everyone is on set to break hearts and let gauze from costumes blow backward. Holy show, cloven blow, we've seen this before. We've heard this before. Your golden hair. A poem about stars. There they are again, limestone pale, and I guess riddled, star cold, insistent that I should come. There are many things to do right now. Search the internet for the latest failure of the president. Watch wind pick apart October or a fabricated history collapse under studio lights. Ask the you-pick man, where is the center of the apple orchard? I'd like to start there. Grackles, I was told, fighting for blonde chunks ripped from fruit and clearing their throats like tourists snapping at sunrise, which today I couldn't identify as either flag or trap. I saw them through the junk shop window. That's where I was, trying to decide which junk might today be desirable. There, the daisies blistering the grass like some spilled peroxide. Tough little Rosie the Riveter shoving back all that lawn. Go ahead and laugh, but next thing, my mind goes for stars. All our glances upward, like moments in the theater where bright exfoliates everyone's face, where gestures of strangers become known. Waiting all day, the slow stitch meter of a sewing machine, all day minuet. Imagine waiting all day. If there is another world, and I doubt, maybe this time I'd recognize it as a paper plate incrementally soaking through before a pile of casserole finally falls. So there's this little glowing zero you can see into. World that sings you, every light cut by some animal dragging food back to its nest. For a minute, I get a radio on a center. A glowing rock that sings Amadeus, or a glowing rock that sings a metronome of child sleep. Twilight that unravels into nothing. So the last poem cycle in this book is called Disintegration, Poems for Eliot, and Partly why it's called disintegration is because the sort of the project of the book disintegrates and the poems become a little more standalone. At least that's how I think of them. So I'm just going to read a few of these poems and then call it. And I guess I should say too that the birth of my daughter comes up in some of these, and partly because I think about like disintegrations also being the beginning spaces. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about is how that the cliche of the end is also the beginning. Image. Here is an image for flag, for drop cloth for the days I live, for daughter like daylight, like daylilies burning holes in the ground. Or here, an image of an attic door hinging open, sounds drifting down as dusty light. More so than excellence, there was an image of buttoning a shirt or slicing an apple into white sickles. There was the precursor to speaking, jangled notes of birds beyond vines. I am very new today. You, a clean white shirt hung up with pearl snaps for eyes. Myth. The body whole is a boat of hope-filled pilgrims, numerous. Inside a woman, a dark hole around which she rotates. Inside a child, a tiny film of sun inching an arc across air. The little face is a windmill, little lungs, a pair of tissue paper gulls dipping and falling. Bleached sail, bleached crooked wings. In endless, quiet words are ruins rising. An island bruises space. A person throws a gravestone over what lies behind. In crowds, a body is cleaved or canceled. In distance, a body glimpsed. Land like this must be green and laws entirely natural, pieces of game looking sharply out under trees and sky. I had a friend she was writing a story about a character who I sort of fell in love with named Marvel, and Marvel was basically like the last woman on Earth. And so I wrote about Marvel too. This is called Marvel. To wrap you in skins in the simple fabrics of thousands of years from now, a skin around your neck. I keep thinking about the fecundity of your items of clothing, your tools, leathers curving against the curve of the eye. I have listened for these things you never knew you knew, and for marvel. Perhaps boots instead of barefoot. Slippers? Are you inhabiting space, or is space inhabiting you? Are the feral herbs climbing walls? Are boys in the other room boys or remnants of another place? Should we wrap your feet in rags? Should you pray? Should you add another layer? I have been on the phone all afternoon weeping. I have been reading books about weeping on the phone, and you've been wearing this for a while, what Marvel wears. Documenting smells, butter with sweet wives, and an old, weird-looking knife, the one you normally carry. Do you have a good mirror, something you could lift and point toward a source of light? Your clothes are fine, except for the parts where you started wearing different clothes. My clothes don't change. The outside is a sweeping shoreline. And I'll just do two more quick ones. This one's called Disintegration. A red tearing sound breaks a thing into being. The hands so small in your image, the hair so thin. This heart beats faster than all of the hearts you've ever heard. It's the heart of a mouse, heart of a molecule. We live in air, I told it, so that it knew how to take a first breath. Someone arrives with groceries, aspirin, a favor unfolding from a silver car. Someone has advice that floats through our hair, here where time becomes a bolt of light unfurling. Here where long days curled over books break uselessly against the requirements of the hour. Deposited into my care is this knot. It looks very like me, only smaller. It has small wants. It is not proof, but it is the shape of a morning glory. It's not proof, but a dog unfolds a howl towards semi-soft stars. No proof, a bright tree burns the eyes, and the eyes bear the tree. This is called Birds, and it's got a quote from George Eliot's Middlemarch in it. George Eliot suggests, we, all of us, grave or light, get our thoughts entangled in metaphors and act fatally on the strength of them. You who are nothing become in the mind. Sticks put up, white flags delineate where a new house may exist. I thought they were birds. Nice names for a girl. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Lo, Heather, and Rachel. Thank you everyone for coming. As I said before, there are books available outside the doorway. I'm sure that if you purchase one, our poets would love to sign it. Hopefully, we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.